Hey folks, it's Ray, DCRainmaker.com here, and today I've got a complete climb comparison extravaganza. So I'm here in the Dolomites in Italy. Let's see, we've got a climbing extravaganza from the sea all the way to the top of the volcano. Climbing, cycling, climbing bake-off between the Wahoo Bolt V2, the Hammerhead Karoo, and the Garmin Edge series. Now, of course, this is the 5th or 6th or 7th time I've shot this video over the last 6 months. This time we are off-road, but I'm basically going to combine all these things together into one comprehensive guide on how this works on epic climbs. Speaking of epic, the Pros Closet has sponsored this video today, but they don't have any control over the video. In fact, they haven't even seen it yet, so they're along for the ride just like you and me. Oh, me. For now though, let's zip back to the Dolomites and start there. Up there is the Cellaronda. It's a loop. It's about a 50K loop, but we've had about a 10-kilometer climb to get up it. So I've got 3 units I'm comparing today. I've got the Garmin Edge series, the Hammerhead Karoo series, and the Wahoo. And I say series because the Wahoo series, whether it's the Element or the Roam or the Bolt 1 or the Bolt 2, they're all the same from a climbing functionality. And same is true as well on the Hammerhead Karoo or Karoo 2, the exact same from a climbing functionality. And on the Garmin side, it's the same from a climbing functionality, whether it's a 530, 830, 1030, or 1030 plus. So I'm gonna be focusing on those. Now, the very first thing to do is to get your routes loaded. In this case, it's fairly straightforward. I created my route in Strava for this. So with the routes loaded up here, you can see that in the case of the Wahoo, there's no additional information in terms of the climb profile ahead of time. We're only going to see it as we're going, and the same is true also on the Hammerhead Karoo. We do see we got 2,655 meters versus on the Garmin, I can actually look at each individual climb. So you see the first climb length, 7% grade, 11.3 kilometers, and then each subsequent climb from there. We can in fact then tap on any of those climbs to see information about that particular climb. And the same is true in the Hammerhead side. You'll see the distance to the start, so starting at 9.6 kilometers, then you'll see the average gradient, as well as the duration of the climb. And then we can tap on any given climb to see more information about that particular climb. So with that explainer out of the way, we're gonna get rolling up there and we'll catch up a bit of ways up the climb. Okay, so we started from that little circle down there, right there in the village. Virtually no warm-up. It's just straight up we go. Now I'm going to show you all the Climb Pro and climber bits in just a moment once we find a shady spot so you can see a little bit easier. Pretty incredible scenery here. We got a brief break of 200 whole meters before we start going back up again, but I'll take any break I can get. So let's go ahead and freeze the screen and look at the different climb screens for the different units. Starting off in the top left-hand corner, we got the Wahoo one. And then the main thing there is you see just the overall gradient of the route profile. So you see that kind of incline there. Now there's no information about any given climbs. You're just seeing the elevation profile like most bike computers have had for the last, I don't know, decade or so. There is one little trick though around that we'll talk about in just a second. Then from there, looking at the Garmin side of things, you see it shows at the very top a climb 1 of 6, meaning there are 6 categorized climbs here. You'll see the next climb starts in 27.4 kilometers, so quite a ways from now. And the distance to go for this particular climb that I'm on right now is 21 kilometers. And then I've got 1,049 meters of ascent remaining, so like 3,000 feet still of climbing on this particular climb, though the average gradient remaining on this particular climb is fairly shallow at only 4%. You can see that shown there, as well as the color coding for the yellow, meaning it's kind of mid-range gradient. Both Garmin and Hammerhead have different color codings, but roughly speaking, the darker the color, the worse it's going to be. At the bottom on the Garmin side, I've got 2 configurable fields. In this case, I've just set it to be the grade, the current grade, as well as the elevation. So right now I've got 5% and 1,383 meters, my current elevation. Now moving on to the Hammerhead unit, at the very top you see 2 different colors. You see the yellow color, that's the tab to see my navigation, so the route and stuff like that. But I'm on the blue little mountain tab there, which means I'm seeing the climb in the full page view. You can also do a half page view, which is pretty cool. Below that you see the entire climb profile of this particular climb. So in this case, I'm about a quarter of the way through that. That's why that first portion is kind of grayed out. And the remainder of the little color stripes are based on 500 meter increments for the grade in those particular sections. Now below that, you see those numbers are 3.3, 5.6, negative 1.1, and so on. Those are the upcoming gradients for 100 meter chunks, the next 100 meters and the 100 meters after that, and so on. And then below that, we've got 21.3 kilometers to the top, and then 901 meters to the top. Now it's notable that's 900 meters from your position to the top position. If you have any descents between there and the top of that climb, so maybe mid-climb descents, that actually will not count. And so you'll actually have more ascending than this shows right here. The Garmin does correctly count for that, but Hammerhead doesn't at this point. Then finally it shows climb number 2 of 8, and my current grade is 5%. So in terms of gradient, instantaneous gradient, in general the Karoo 2 and the Bolt 2 are virtually identical, usually within a second or so, or within a degree or so. The Garmin tends to lag about 3 to 5 seconds behind, but it catches up and is a bit more smooth, so I'm not sure if it's better or worse, but it is what it is. Of course, just as soon as I say that, the Wahoo's lagging behind, and the Garmin and the Karoo are faster. So like I said, it varies. So one thing that does not vary though is that the Karoo consistently has inaccurate upcoming gradients. So right now it says this is a 4.4% section, yet it shows me a 10%, Garmin 9%, Wahoo 9%, my body 50%. Then around the corner it says 13.7%, which we'll see, but I've consistency on this ride, every past ride since this feature came out. Those upcoming gradients just aren't that accurate, unfortunately. So here we are in that 13.7%, and this is 9, 10, yeah, 8 on the Wahoo, 10 here. And it's the average of that 100 meters, but we're just about at the end of the 13, and at no point did the grade pop above 11 on the Karoo. And you see here, negative 0.8 coming up. Des can attest that is not down 1% grade. Des is stopping for a picture, I think. Picture time. Picture time. The one bad part about starting late, this is picture time by the way, is that motorcycles just scream up here and across the roads and everything else. So that guy's pretty civil. The guys a second ago, not so much. And I guess it's their lives, not mine. So just be safe, people. It's not that hard. And I like to say it's their lives, not mine, but the reality is if I'm coming down and they're in my lane, I'm dead too. So come on, just be safe. Both sides, everyone be safe. Simple as that. So the last 4 days we've been in the Alps doing stuff every single day and starting to catch up a bit, but still these views are what we came for. Just look at that, that's absolutely incredible. Been looking forward to this now for a year, trying to figure out a route down here, and awesome stuff. Des is properly ahead of me, but he had the last picture spot, so I stopped, he went past, then I caught up. That's my excuse and I'm sticking with it. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Pros Closet has sponsored today's video. For those not familiar with the Pros Closet, they've got over 2,000 bikes from brands like Canyon and Specialized and Cervelo and Diamond and more. This includes gravel bikes, road bikes, triathlon bikes, you name it. But most importantly, they've got those 2,000 bikes in stock today and ready to ship today. And even with free shipping using that nifty little code down below there. Now, what's unique about the Pros Closet is that you can trade in your old bike for that dream bike. They'll cover the shipping cost from you to them, and they'll give you either credit or just straight up cash for your bike, your choice. When your old bike arrives in their giant warehouse in Louisville, Colorado, master mechanics inspect, wash, replace parts, tune up everything. Seriously, just look at this place. It is absolutely insane. Once the bikes are ready, they're boxed up and added to inventory so that you can browse those online and then actually ship immediately. So there's no waiting for a bike next season or something like that. However, it's worth noting that the Pros Closet also sells more than just bikes. They've got wheels and drivetrains and shoes and helmets and kits, even smart trainers and bike computers. So if you got a spare bike lying around that you never use anymore, go ahead and ship it on in, or use this Pros Closet for anything else you've got using the coupon code down below for free shipping. And with that, let's get rolling again. Got 127 meters of climbing to go, 1.5 kilometers to the top, wherever that is up there. And then we're done with the first of 6 climbs for the day. Coming up to the top here, 23 meters of climbing left, 31 on the Garmin, unknown on the Wahoo, but I can see the top, the house up there. That's the promised land. Now, one interesting point to mention is that while Wahoo doesn't have any sort of climbing functionality built in, you can kind of cheat the system a little bit and use Strava segments. So if I had gone through and made or found a Strava segment for each one of these climbs, which would have been easy, just time consuming to go find them all, then you can tap that in there, then those will load in and you'll at least see the distance to the top. So you got something. I didn't remember to do that for this climb, but here's some footage of what it looks like for another climb a couple rides ago, and you can see there kind of the detail that you get. First pass complete, the pass of Sella, and then we're going to continue on down this way and go down for a ways. Our next climb is in about 5.28 kilometers. So welcome back to the trails here. Been riding along for, I don't know, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, something like that now. Now, one thing that becomes super pronounced if you go mountain biking with these units side by side is the way they break up the climbs. In the case of Hammerhead, if you look right now, you'll see this categorized this particular mountain bike ride at 18 different climbs, versus Garmin was only 7 climbs. Now, that's partly because of the fact that Garmin's threshold is slightly higher at 500 meters in length for a climb versus Hammerhead is 400 meters, but it also gets down to how they group their climbs together. In the case of Garmin, if you have a very small descent within the case of a larger climb, it usually will just call that one big climb. It won't call that 2 different climbs, versus Hammerhead almost always will call any sort of slight descent in the middle of a climb that is a break in the climb, and it considers that 2 different climbs. And this ultimately gets down to kind of a personal preference as to what you prefer, whether you want kind of a bunch of smaller climbs or you want one big climb. Okay, so I got good news and bad news. The good news, it is coffee time. We have one more descent, then a solid ascent, and then the final descent down into town, but that doesn't count. At that point, like, we're done. The bad news is we've had some casualties. We lost the Hammerhead Karoo. Lost meaning the battery ran out. Totally my fault. I just didn't charge enough for screen recording and brightness added so you can see it on the screen. 2, we've lost the Garmin 945 LTE, also battery. That one, we'll see about that one. But the other 2 are chugging, and honestly, they're just gonna tell me bad news at this point. There's no good news left on this climb, so not really worried about it. How's it going for you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's amazing though that you do have the Samsung.
The Samsung, the Galaxy Watch 4 is chugging, though it lost heart rate the entire last climb. It was like, no, not even gonna try. I'm not gonna show you how bad that is. So
how bad was your heart rate?
I didn't look. I want that information. I don't want.
Okay.
I just was. It was coffee time. That's all I know. So nutrition today's existed of a single granola bar, and we're 2 hours into it now. So
what's great though is that for me, I'm only running the Element Gold, so I don't have any. I don't have any Climb Pro. I don't have anything like that. So ignorance is bliss in my world.
That is definitely the case. So with that, we'll get rolling. Reached the point of the day where I think I'm maybe halfway up this climb. It's starting to hail right now. Yep, definitely hailing. And I don't want to know anymore. I've turned off Climb Pro and climbing related, distance related metrics. I can see the top. Let me show it to you in a second here. And I'm kaput. I don't know where Des is. He's way ahead at this point. The hail is not awesome though. Let me show you that top, 1 second. So the top, it's up there. It's the top. Hence why it's named the top. I don't know how far it is. I'm guessing 4 to 5 kilometers, but that's where it is, and that's where I gotta go to get home. So I'm gonna keep on chugging. Like I said, I love Climb Pro and climbing related things like Climber, but not right now. I don't want to know. At least it's still pretty. We are almost there. Climb Pro says 30 meters, 345 meters to go, but 30 meters of climbing. Average grading at 8%. I could have done without that though, but almost there. Mr. Des coming back down to meet me. How'd it go, Mr. Des?
Pretty good. Yeah. How you feeling?
It is definitely pizza time. I have completely failed in nutrition today.
Did the cappuccinos help at all?
The cappuccinos helped,
okay,
but honestly, I'm just way under. Like,
yeah.
We're at 3 hours right now. My sum total food intake is a handful of blueberries, 2 cappuccinos, and a granola bar.
Yeah.
So.
That doesn't sound like enough.
No, it's not. I don't know why, like I always do that. But we are here. We're not gonna stop here though, because we're gonna keep on going. And maybe a selfie, but we're gonna get down to the village. We've got, I don't know, 5 to 10 kilometers to descend, all descending. And then we're done. Okay, we are back down in the village now. I think looking at like overall features in terms of who did the best job of climbing, I love seeing the upcoming climbs. I think that was, I would say for both of us today, super useful to be able to see those upcoming climbs and knowing that we had 15 kilometers of descending until the next one, or however much left until, you know, 3 or 4 more climbs to go. Like, I love that. The Wahoo though, the Wahoo doesn't have much of anything in this whole race. Like, I think it lost. I think we knew that going into it, like it was going to lose hard. And like, I can barely see the elevation profile for this next little section, but it wasn't super useful for me. I don't know about for you in terms of like figuring out climbing up ahead of time.
I mean, it gave a general idea, but it definitely didn't categorize the climbs like the Garmin did with Climb Pro.
Right. And in the case of the Karoo, there's a ton I love about the Karoo. I think that the handling of the Karoo's like upcoming gradient, the way it looks there, is so much better than what Garmin does. It looks brilliant. I love seeing each 100-meter section. That's awesome. The problem is the data is just not accurate, and it's not accurate here. It hasn't been accurate for me over the course of summer and other climbs, and in the spring for other climbs. And it's a consistent problem that, like, you're so close, but if that data is not useful, then, or is not accurate, it's not very useful. Okay, so to round this out, I want 3 things to happen from 3 different companies. Number 1, I want Wahoo to do something in this realm of climbing. And when Wahoo does something, they usually do it really good, even if they're kind of late. And so I'm really hoping that they're working on something amazing. Number 2, I want Garmin to be more finite in the upcoming gradient. Right now, you can't really see, you just not a lot of information of how much suck. I really like what Hammerhead does in terms of seeing how much suck, even if the data isn't quite correct. And number 3, my arm is getting tired. Number 3 here is that I want Hammerhead to simply have more accurate gradient data. And that's probably gonna have to come at the expense of some of the granularity in order to smooth out some of the inaccuracies in the underlying data sets themselves. If those 3 things can happen from those 3 companies, I'd be pretty happy. But not as happy as we're gonna be in about 5 minutes when we go find some pizza. Are we doing the pizza castle here, or?
The pink pizza?
You know, they say not to judge a book by its cover, but I don't know if I can eat pizza from a giant pink castle. Just saying. There look like some pretty good spots around the corner there. So we are on the hunt for pizza. Thank you for watching. If you found this video interesting or useful, whack that like button at the bottom there, or hit subscribe for plenty more sports technology goodness. And if you haven't checked out Mr. Des Fit channel here, Des Fit on YouTube, linked somewhere on the screen, do that. He's been suffering along with me all day long here.
Take care, everybody.